back. This is the AM News Review. And of course, I have my guests joining the conversation. Kwadwo Poku is an energy analyst. He also doubles as the head of the Energy Committee of the Bawumia campaign. There's also Wisdom Dugbe. He's a financial analyst. Both of them join the conversation. Gentlemen, good morning.
All right, good morning, Ben. How are you?
Welcome back.
I am well. Kwadwo, good to get back, interact with you. Wisdom Dugbe, I heard you saying something.
I say welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's good to have you join the conversation as well. So let's get right down to it. I want us to maximize the time. I'll start with you, Kwadwo. Your quick thoughts for us this morning, and then I'll take Wisdom's, and then we continue from there.
Well, I want to say a big good morning and congratulations to the flag bearer of the MPP, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, for successfully filing his nomination to contest this year's election. I think it's a first step in the right direction. It's about time that we get this show on the road. And I think the party has just started. Now that we have filed, we've been hitting the road so far, but we'll get back on the road again and basically impress home the good news and the policies that Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia has for the Ghanaian people. I think it's going well so far. We've been to the most part of the eastern region, Greater Accra, and the response is very great.
Great. For you, Wisdom, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, Ben, I read a news article about the Institute of Economic Affairs, questioning the effectiveness of the Bank of Ghana's policy rate, that it has not been effective in terms of managing inflation. And I think they are right. Inflation has cooled from the mid-50s in 2022 to the current rate of about 22%. Yet it seems the policy rate only declined by a percentage point over the same period. It got me curious to ask if the policy rate, the way they set the rate, is it taken into account, or is it done to target inflation or manage inflation? The U.S. is about to cut rates, right? Because inflation has cooled significantly. And that is good for businesses to begin to invest in expansion, hiring new employees, and also investing more into their businesses because of the favorable rate environment. And so I've been wondering if such rate cuts is also in the works as far as Ghana is concerned, as well as boosting economic activity in the nation. Look, I also don't believe the policy rate has been entirely effective in Ghana in addressing inflation. With the decline that we're seeing in inflation, yes, still the policy rate is pretty high, right? And so I think that it will be a good thing for the Monetary Policy Committee to actually take that decision and cut rates.
Interesting thoughts, gentlemen. Thank you for sharing them. Let's get into the newspapers now. I'll start with the Daily Graphic newspaper. EC must act with impartiality. That's according to President Akufo-Addo. Then 8 file presidential nomination forms. There's Wale NPP parliamentary rerun. 3 arrested over ballot box snatching. If you turn to the back page, 2025 AFCON qualifiers, Black Stars stumble again, held by resilient Niger. I was somewhere and started watching this, and then I lost interest. Not that I would have personally tuned in, and I'm being very, you know me, I don't hide my sentiments, because with the way things are going with the Black Stars, and even how they are managed and how players are put on depending on where you sit, and our pitches, what is wrong with our pitches? The other day, there was a clear instance where Thomas Partey, against the Angolans, a ball that typically he would have just whipped in from within, just outside the box. He had to pause because there was a big, whatever, more like a crater there. And if he wasn't careful in balancing the ball, if you've ever played football, you would know that he could have twisted his ankle or something. So he had to rather pause, and the moment was lost. I don't know how with our pitches we're even expecting to win. This one, of course, was played in Morocco because Niger itself cannot play in Niger. But anyway, but they stumbled again against a resilient Niger. You have to give credit to the Nigerians as well, drawing 1-1. But let me get into the main issues. So EC must act with impartiality. That's according to President Akufo-Addo, who has charged the Electoral Commission to conduct the December 7 polls with impartiality, independence, and integrity. He said the EC had a critical role to play as the body charged to oversee the electoral process, and that it must, quoting him, ensure the process is fair to all parties and that the results reflect the true will of the people. He also said the commission should also ensure that all logistical arrangements are in place to facilitate a smooth voting process, and any disputes that arise are handled expeditiously and transparently. He said this at the annual conference of the Ghana Bar Association. He also cautioned political parties against declaring results before the EC did so, because that could lead to confusion, misinformation, and potential conflict. Well, he would know, because his side and the other side, the NDC, have done it in the past. Then he talks about lies and disinformation. He warned against the politics of lies, disinformation, and misinformation in the run-up to the December polls, saying those elements undermined the democratic process and eroded public trust. He said the spread of propaganda and falsehoods could mislead voters, distort the truth, and create unnecessary tension within the body politic, and that political actors, the media, and citizens alike had a shared responsibility to ensure that information disseminated was accurate, verified, and truthful. So here's my question, Mr. President, especially as he talks about misinformation, disinformation, and the rest. He spoke about government official one. Then he said that some people had been tagging his government as being corrupt, he together with his family as being corrupt, and that all of that is, of course, hogwash. But then he goes back to talk about government official one, noting that even the special prosecutor has determined that this person was not culpable. So I'm asking, you talk about lies, misinformation, disinformation. Don't put out things that are not true, that you definitely know will not stand that empirical test. Yet, Mr. President, in your own speech, I don't know, but I'll start with you, Wisdom Dogbe, for your thoughts on this particular story as we move on. Are the political elements themselves living up to expectation on this?
And I think there is a good reason why a section of Ghanaians believe His Excellency President Akufo-Addo is a corrupt leader. I think the level of corruption in his government could easily pass as the worst in our modern history as a nation. I'm sure.
What makes you think he's corrupt? You can't just say he's corrupt and move on. What makes you? What facts do you have?
And I'll get there. When he was elected, a lot of Ghanaians were very hopeful because of this same issue of corruption. Many thought that he would come and root out corruption that has plagued the nation for years. But to our dismay, not only did corruption continue, but it has also become a norm in his government, multiplying across all sectors, and it's become more of a canker to our nation. Look, corruption runs amok in this government, and I'll get to your question quickly. There are briberies everywhere. Look at the Joyce News documentary called Porous Borders, where custom officials take bribes at the border instead of assessing the accurate import duties. There is
let's stick to the executive. Let's stick to the executive. I'm sure you would have examples from there, and those are what I want to see, because when you talk about some of these, yes, they will tell you, I mean, those are not directly government, so to speak, though we can stretch the executive. So let's stick to the executive arm of government.
Let's talk about government. We have government officials that are buying or grabbing state properties at paltry prices because they are enabled to do so, right? They are enabled to do so, so to speak. We have huge sums of money that are spent on national cathedral construction and on the so-called Palugu Dam and several others. So look at the way the SML contract was given. Yet the average Ghanaian can barely afford rent and other basic necessities in life. And when these corrupt officials are caught, Ben, they end up being cleared. He talked about the former president calling him a clearing agent. This is the reason, because when you catch these corrupt politicians, he ends up clearing them.
He says so he's following the rule of law. He's following due process.
Ben, come on, give me a break. I'm not surprised he will say that. We have evidence that some of the contracts were given without even following our own laid down procurement laws. So what is the due process in that? And so there's a reason why people think he's corrupt. and also calling him a mother serpent of corruption, as I read from some reporting. There is always evidence to back up some of these allegations against the president.
All right. Well, I would prefer that we didn't have to reference these politicians with all these terms, because if one does it, the other does it, equalization, I don't think it's necessary. But anyway, I guess politicians have their own way of doing things. Kwadwo Poku.
Well, politicians have a way of doing things, but commentators like Mr. Dugbe also have a responsibility not to push down the name of the highest office in this country down the gutter as he's just done. You know, he made a very specific allegation, and when you pushed him, he couldn't substantiate. He went on talking about the officials and this. Yes, you can talk about a government, a perceived corrupt government. Nobody will argue, because yes, the perception could be there. But you can't be specific on the president and call him corrupt. And when you're pushed for further information, you couldn't give it. You see, we should stop some of these things. The reason people keep going on after our own is that we sit on national television and make these pronouncements. It's very unfortunate. But look, the issue of corruption.
Kwadwo, can I ask you a quick question?
Wisdom. Let him have his say, and then if you have a retort or anything, I'll come to you.
You were asked a specific question, you couldn't answer. You went around the bush, and basically everybody knows that what you are saying is just basically propaganda. So let's move on. Look, the most important thing in this country is that we safeguard what we have. We have a big problem with rent seeking in this country, and Kwadwo Poku, I'm on record to say that I'll give Nanado's government 85%, and the 15% is basically the fight against corruption. I have said it, okay? It doesn't go to say that the president, is corrupt. We live in a nation where a lot needs to be done to check a lot of things. And that is why in some instances, yes, I believe that there should have been more action in certain people going to court on both sides. On the NDC side, I think a lot of people who are walking the streets today should be in court, at least be in court, if not in jail. Okay, so when these things don't happen, that is why people will say that, look, if you preach, and you don't act, then what is the point in the preaching? So look, let me go on to make my statement on the pitches thing that you made mention then.
No, let me ask you something very quickly, Kwadwo. I'm just curious. You know, every now and then you hear things about, because the president mentioned his own family. Ordinarily, I wouldn't go here, but some of his daughters, for example, and roles they play, from creative arts to all of that, and then painting certain bridges, underpasses, and all of that, and the costs we've heard. In recent times, I try to dissociate, because of my background, I try to dissociate, some of these things from personalities. But then you have the latest ambulance saga and the claims about Okoro and his ties to this and that. All of those that have happened over time. And, this restaurant has been put up, and it is this and that, and it cost X amount and all of that. Do you feel, without the lack of clarity on those, because I've not seen any clarity on these issues, including the last one, the ambulance issue, do you feel it does or doesn't feed into the perception of corruption, especially when it comes to the first gentleman's inner circle, his own family? What do you think?
That is why he talks about the fake news. Look, we have a country where people can just take an official letterhead of the presidency and put a letter out when it's fake, right? Now, if you are to respond to everything somebody put on social media, then you never even have breakfast in the morning, because people are busy spreading out. The fact that somebody says something and somebody doesn't respond, that makes it right. See, the issue, look, I always tell this story. I have a very good friend in Nigeria, and between 2001 and 2008, my friend in Port Harcourt, every tall building or a new hotel in Port Harcourt was meant for my friend, because at that time he was the brother-in-law to the governor. When they came out of office, he's my friend. I'm in business with him. None of those things belong to him. And everybody realized that afterwards, none of those things belong to him. But that is it comes with the role. Everything that you do as a member of the first family, people will say or would say otherwise. So I don't think that those are truth. The fact that people are spewing them out doesn't make them truth. That is the bit that I want us to clear.
Thank you.
A lot of things out doesn't make it true.
All right, thank you for that. Before you go to sports, because I want us to stay on this point before you move on. But let's not also create the picture that, oh, it's just out there on the streets. Some of these matters have been got into, even by the media, and we never got any follow-up. You have the opportunity, Wisdom, to quickly add on so that he gets into sports and then we get into other stories.
Right. Look, one of those instances, what we're talking about is perception of corruption here. When KPMG audited the SML contract, they came back to the president, and the recommendation was that, or one of the findings was that this contract was not issued per the guidelines of the Procurement Act, right? The procurement laws of the land.
Right.
And the president had the option to terminate or allow this thing to continue so that folks will continue to have that perception that it's corrupt. And what did he do? He allowed this whole thing to continue. And now we are.
So the fact that somebody take an executive decision makes it corrupt?
Kwadwo, when you were speaking and he tried to interject, I did not let him do it. Please hold. Wisdom, go ahead.
You need to own up to your decisions. Whatever decision that he had the power to save the nation a ton of money in this SML deal. What did he do? These are the kind of things that make people think that it's corrupt.
All right. Thank you very much. Kwadwo, let's not go back and forth. I don't want too much of. So let's get into the sports.
I'm not going. Look, when Mr. Dugbe says things, I mean the viewers know where it's coming from, so there's no point. Let me go to our pitch and the issue with our pitches.
Kwadwo,
it's
Kwadwo,
yes.
Please, let's be. Of course, with me, I can take quite a lot, but be respectful to the other party. You said something earlier about what he says is just propaganda. I let it go. Now you're saying when he says something, we know where it's coming from. I don't know what you are insinuating, but people know that you are a member of the MPP, for example. So if he speaks but let's keep it respectful. I don't want it to later become, something in a banter. So please avoid such statements. Go ahead with your comments on sports.
Okay, no problem. The issue with the pitches, when the Black Star played in Kumasi some time ago, the vice president visited the Black Stars in Kumasi. And the issue of the pitches came up. And if you take note of what we've put in the sports proposals in his manifesto, going forward, there's a lot of stuff that we've proposed to do in the coming budget and in the coming years to basically make sure that we bring in the technology. Because I think that the world has moved on. The world is no longer doing the soil grass pitches that we have in Ghana. There's a lot of investment that needs to go into our sports. So that technology needs to be brought in. Look, it's without a doubt that anybody who wins this coming election in our next budget, we should make a lot of investment in football pitches in Ghana. And that is something that I thought is worthy of knowing that we are, as a government and as a proposed manifesto, there is a lot of effort to be made on our pitches because it is appalling, and I think something needs to be done.
I have an interesting question for you, Kwadwo. And when I interacted with former President Mahama at the Kempinski Hotel, I remember, I've forgotten who brought it up, but someone brought it up there, asking him about the quality of stadia and if he became president again, what he would do. And he gave his own answers. But I'm curious. I may not be as smart as you, the politicians, because sometimes I guess everything we say is nonsense.
Well, I'm not a politician, so I'm not as smart.
But Agenda 111, for example. Look, someone was telling me something, and I'll direct my team to go to that particular health outfit. And the things the person who has worked there before, a medical professional, was telling me, he's now outside the country. It was staggering. It was disturbing. And I'll get my team to go there. And then sometimes people will say, you are exposing. It's so sad. You have so many great medical facilities, but a lot of them have deteriorated over time. Instead of working on them, we say we want to build a swathe of other hospitals, when even the main ones we have are struggling. Fine. Our pitches. We have these stadia, a number of them. What is the state of our pitches today, especially after the last tournament we had? Even in the All Africa Games, we struggled with a lot of these, even with the University of Ghana stadium, and then claimed we had spent, was it 16 million? Is it dollars or Ghana cedis? I think it was dollars on that pitch alone. Only God knows what went into that. But my question, Kwadwo, Dr. Bawumia says he is going to build further stadia. One, I don't know whether you are aware, we don't have a grade A, FIFA grade A stadium in Ghana. We don't. The highest level of pitch stadium. We don't have that. A footballing nation like Ghana, that is one. Two, with the state of the Baba Yara Sports Stadium, Kumasi and Accra, the pitches and everything, why can't we rather make these stadia better, world class, instead of adding on when I don't know what you think.
Ben, I think you should appreciate the parallel approach. Well, I made a submission to you right now, and in the same breath where you read that there were extra stadia to be built, in that same breath, you would have read that the pitches issue has been addressed. It's not like somebody is ignoring one and attending to one. There is no issue where, in terms of the Agenda 111 and the hospital issues that you come up with. You remember, I have always talked about these things, that we need to have quality, affordable, and accessible healthcare system. The issue of hospitals, the existing hospitals, some of them are in a state that are not worthy, right? But there's a lot that is being done by the
What do you mean? Some of them are in a state that are not worthy.
The hospitals, sorry?
What do you mean by some of them are in a state that are not worthy? What do you mean by that?
Well, the issue, and when you go to some of the facilities, some of the basic things that you need in there will not be there. And that is acceptable fact. But that doesn't stop the fact that you cannot address that and build other hospitals for people who don't have.
I guess the bottom line is that they are not addressing that, but the claim is always we are building new ones. They are
addressing it. Don't say that it's been addressed. Those things are being addressed. It's the same thing that because you see, it's a matter of priority. Now, somebody is coming in to say that, look, I'm going to prioritize both. I'm going to have a parallel approach. That is why I said that with the pitch issue, there is a manifesto that in that manifesto promised to build more stadia, has also promised to fix the pitches. It's not like we said one and left the other. So it's a parallel approach.
All right. Let me just let our viewers, Wisdom, hold for me. Let me just let our viewers also know that these pitches, in fact, there was a time when I think FIFA was mentioning that if we were not careful, is it CAF rather, was mentioning that if we were not careful, we wouldn't even get to play in our own country because of the quality of our pitches. And I would also make this point. Wisdom, you will have the final say and then we move on. The point also that with the state of the pitches, it's something to be addressed now. It's not something about building new stadia and the time it will take. Because if we are not careful, it could actually impact our chances of qualification. Like I said the other day, it was clear. Some of our players. In fact, the goal that was scored against us, I've forgotten the gentleman's name. The ball bounced, okay, hit him, and then fell right towards the opponent. And that's how they scored us. It took that unwieldy bounce. Ordinarily, that ball would have been clear. If you watched it is affecting our chances of qualification. I don't know when we are going to do it. Maybe when we fail to qualify, God forbid, then we would. Wisdom, you have the final word on this and then we move.
Ben, and I'll go straight to the point on this, right? Some of these things are typical examples of create, loot, and share. It's the same corruption that we were talking about. There are so many stadia that we can invest in, uplift them. If you go to Honia Adakulu, they built one of those facilities over there. Today is collecting snakes and rodents and all of that. Instead of investing in that, bringing it up to par, they have in their manifestos that they will build all this stadium, and they are completely ignoring what is already been done. This is the phenomena we have to deal with. For instance, quickly now, and on this one, we have our government going out to start new affordable housing constructions. When they ignore the one that the previous government started because they don't want the previous government to take credit for that. For instance, the Sagalemi project. So these are some of the issues that we have as a nation that we have to deal with instead of giving all these campaign promises just to get votes.
All right. Thank you very much. Let me go to page 11, a matter that I am greatly concerned about. I always want to delve into these stories. It's a health one. ECOWAS Gender Center supports fistula in Ghana with $245,000. If you don't know about fistula and what it does to our women, you should check it out. I'm so happy about this. Now, the ECOWAS Gender Development Center has presented a check of $245,000 to the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection in Accra to rehabilitate the Tamale Fistula Center in the northern region. The Fistula Center will thus receive a facelift and have an additional theater to support an already existing one, an anesthesia machine, and new beds, among others. The check was presented last Friday at the launch of 4 gender programs being implemented by the EGDC in Ghana on the theme Strengthening Women's Health Needs and Social Empowerment. Now, the head of the National Fistula Task Force, Dr. Gabriel Ganyagulu, who represented the Chief Director of the Ministry of Health, Alhaj Hafiz Adam, in a remark, thanked the EGDC for the support, saying it would go a long way to help the thousands of women who are suffering from the disease, especially in the northern part of the country, which is why I feel it's so fitting that they are targeting the northern belt as far as this is concerned, Tamale to be specific. And I'm hoping that all of this money will be used for the reason for which it's been given. But then let's get into other stories on page 13. 8 file presidential nomination, forms, so to speak, and 8 presidential aspirants, including the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia of the New Patriotic Party and former President John Dramani Mahama of the National Democratic Congress, yesterday filed their nomination forms at the Electoral Commission to contest the 2024 presidential election. The orderly process, done according to pre-arranged schedules, was one more of the key steps in the process towards the highly anticipated polls on December the 7th. Those who also filed yesterday included Hassan Ayariga of the All People's Congress, Christian Kwabena Andrews of the Ghana Union Movement, and Percival Kofi Akpalu of the Liberal Party of Ghana. The chairperson of the EC, Jean Mensah, personally received the nomination forms and said a review of the forms would begin immediately. She also gave the assurance that the presidential and parliamentary elections would be free and fair. And of course, as Ghanaians, maybe we shouldn't beg because it is our right for elections to be free and fair. But we are begging, especially on the back of some of the happenings in 2020, that it does turn out to be free and fair, and that some of the problems are eradicated ahead of the polls. I'll end with this final political story and then take your reflections. Wale Wale NPP parliamentary rerun, 3 arrested over ballot box snatching. Now, 3 people were arrested in Wale Wale yesterday when the New Patriotic Party's parliamentary primary rerun in the constituency was characterized by violence. Ballot papers were snatched and destroyed during the sorting process by people believed to belong to the factions of the incumbent member of parliament of the constituency, Haja Larba Zuwaira Abudu, and her sole opponent, Dr. Kabiru Mahama. Electoral officers could consequently not conclude the process to declare the result. The police later took custody of the ballot boxes and their consent and sent them to the Wale Wale Municipal Police Command in order to contain the situation. At the time of filing the report yesterday, the Northeast Regional Director of the EC, Gabriel Menu, said his outfit was waiting for the key representatives of the candidates to discuss the next steps. Okay, so starting with you, Wisdom. Fistula, presidential nomination forms, Wale Wale primary. Thoughts?
And yeah, I heard about both Vice President Bawumia and former President Mahama and the rest. They filed their nominations. I heard about that. It's quite significant and also a crucial step in the electoral process. I think it's significant because it carries implications for our democracy and governance. It might not sound as that to many Ghanaians because we do this every 4 years. But in a region where we still have dictatorships, right, and political persecutions in surrounding countries, I think we need to acknowledge the fact that these nominations continue to show that at the very least, we encourage democratic participation and also representation of diverse views. We have heard from the camp of former President Mahama and their views as they filed this nomination. They say their views are how they will create jobs for Ghana's underemployed and unemployed, including the youth. You know, especially those who have graduated from college and sitting at home because they can't find jobs. You know, and the former president camp, they have also shared their views on going after corrupt officials to recover what they looted from the nation, ensuring accountability and pursuing an agenda to also, you know, ensure economic recovery and growth and a fair opportunity for all. And we've also heard from the camp of the vice president that theirs is to demonstrate a moment of possibility. And I think it is these diverse views that we should be glad that we have in Ghana in our democratic process. I think it is now the turn of the EC and our security agencies and all stakeholders, to be honest, to ensure that we have a legitimate elections which is free and fair and also credible.
All right. Thank you for your thoughts. Kwadwo?
Yeah, good morning. Thanks. This filing of nomination, in total, I think 39 people picked forms, 12 political parties, and I think 27 independent. I really want the EC to go down the stringent letter of the law. Because if we are not careful, we'll end up having a pamphlet for the voters that on the day we'll have a pamphlet to basically campaign. I think a lot
well,
of
I
the
know
people
I know of a final figure of about 30. I don't know whether it encapsulates all of these other movements
from
and
what I
others,
read,
but
it was 39 that picked the form. 12. I don't know if that number has changed, but it was 12 political parties and 27 independents. And for what it's worth, we should basically be able to make our form presenting and our application for the highest office of the land as stringent as it is. There's been in the past where people have falsified guarantors' information, being arrested and just getting a slap on the wrist and let go. I think we should take this exercise very serious. Not everybody can just come into town and decide that they are going to fill forms for presidency and go and falsify information, present them. So that, for me, I'm praying to EC to make sure that we go by the letter of the law, and if possible, we have to disqualify. Disqualify is the highest position.
But if people are qualified, you also maintain them. It's part of the democratic process. In Nigeria, there are times when you've had, yes, a pamphlet of people applying. Not all of them will. But I'm just saying that you don't disqualify for the sake of disqualifying.
No, but nobody's been. Now, come on. I mean, nobody said that. All I'm saying is that we know that most of these people, just by the carousel look of what the law is, most of them don't qualify to even pick the form. Because basically the 12 political parties are supposed to have offices in all 276 constituencies. And half of them don't have. They don't have offices in 276 constituencies. The fact that you are given a provisional license doesn't qualify you to basically present your nomination. And I think most of these issues is the doing of the EC. If they are stringent on the laws, they should be. And also there's a law that says that you should have at least 75% representation. So if a party does not have a 75% representation in terms of parliamentary, they don't qualify to stand for the presidency. These need to be enforced.
All right. Thank you. Let me just add the story from the Daily Graphic because it ties into what we're saying. The Ghana Catholic Bishops' Conference has urged all stakeholders in this year's elections to work together to ensure the elections are conducted in an atmosphere of peace, fairness, and mutual respect. It also entreated the electorate to exercise their right to vote wisely and responsibly. Quoting the GCBC, educate yourselves about the candidates and their platforms and vote for those who align with your vision for a better Ghana. Your vote is a powerful tool for shaping the future of our nation. It is crucial that it is cast with careful consideration and respect for the democratic process. That was a communique signed by the president of the Ghana Catholic Bishops' Conference, Most Reverend Matthew Kwesi Gyamfi, on the theme, promoting peace, integrity, and fairness in the upcoming elections. It goes on, but you can grab further details from the Daily Graphic newspaper. The New Finder, and I'll go a bit quickly so we maximize time within the next 10 minutes and we're out of here. Migration of educated youth worrying. That's according to Yamson. I'll get into that story. No debt restructuring with local contractors. That's according to the Finance Ministry. Recently, there was talk about that, but they are talking about external creditors. Cocobot begins self-financing season today. Energy sector merger risks price hikes. That's according to the IES and ASEC, who are raising red flags. Let me go straight to page 2. Now, managing partner at Yamson and Associates, Mr. Harry Yamson, has issued a stern warning over the growing migration of Ghana's skilled and educated youth, calling it a serious challenge that requires immediate government and private sector intervention. In a paper he authored on the issue, Mr. Yamson highlighted the complex factors driving this exodus and emphasized the urgent need for strategic policies to mitigate the adverse effects of the Ghanaian economy. It goes on, but I keep saying we're sitting on a ticking time bomb, and we keep saying, oh, of course, we can export and get the benefits, and, you know, they're going to repatriate funds. But yes, within the last week, over the weekend, a friend reached out to me on WhatsApp, a friend whom I was trying to actually get a job for somewhere, right? Reached out to me over the weekend and he says, oh, this and that and that. Can we talk on WhatsApp? He sends a video call and guess what? He's in Ohio in the US. Got out of the system. Whether it is education or whatever, some people just want to get out. And he got out for valid reasons. Then yesterday, there's a medical doctor friend someone else wanted to reach. I was trying his number. It wasn't going through. I suspected he was out of the country. So I called him on WhatsApp. He didn't answer. Later, he got back to me, and then I told him what my friend wanted. Indeed, this gentleman had also left the country. And I'm beginning to wonder, hey, it appears even within my circle, if I pick 50 people, I'm sure more than half would have left the country. And I don't know, but it is what it is. Energy sector, merger risks, price hikes. The Institute for Energy Security and the Africa Sustainable Energy Center have jointly raised red flags about the government's proposed merger of key institutions in Ghana's energy sector. Both organizations warn that these changes could severely compromise the country's energy security, financial stability, and affordability of electricity for consumers. These two stories for your reflection, if you have any thoughts on them. I'll start with you, Kwadwo.
Well, I'm very surprised that people make it look like people leaving the shores of Ghana for other countries is a new phenomenon. In fact, it's even slowed down. I mean,
you have statistics to prove that?
Yes, I have statistics to prove that.
What are your statistics?
No, let me finish.
No, Kwadwo, just tell me, where are you getting your stats from?
You used your own circle 2 out of 2. Mm-hmm. So that's your statistics, right? Mm-hmm. So you are saying even in your own circle, that's your statistics.
It's not 2 out of 2.
Well, man, you use your own circle, 2 out of 2.
Kwadwo,
that's
relax,
fine. In
relax.
the past, let me finish.
I'm just asking you, what are your statistics? Because there have been reports from different organizations.
Let me finish. You
US,
use your
Canada.
statistics
Okay,
2
go
out
ahead.
of 2, Ben.
Go ahead.
Ben, your conclusion was that 2 people you've called have left the country. So in your view, people are leaving in droves. I'm going to give you my own statistics of how I think that now is no longer the case. Okay. You forget that I lived in London. You forgot that I came back to Ghana in '98. So I knew when people used to travel out of Ghana in droves and come to London, right? That then has stopped. More people are seeking work in Ghana than they were back in the 90s and the 2000s. More people, even during vacation, now, more people stay in Ghana to work than go to London and those other countries. And I'm talking about my own statistics of people I know. The same way you use 2 out of 2 of the people you call. That same way I'm using my number of people I know.
Okay.
Because, look, the point is this.
Let him land. Mm-hmm.
The point I'm trying to make is that I, Kwadwo Poku, think that even if I had money, I would encourage people to leave and go and experience other nations and come back to Ghana. One of the fundamental issues is that everybody that leaves Ghana, depending on no matter what the period, they all come back. And they come back better people for their nation, and they come back more experience for their nation. There's nothing wrong with people leaving the shores of Ghana to other countries to basically work. It doesn't mean that it's a sort of a phenomenon caused, but there is this thinking that, because it's so bad in Ghana now, everybody's leaving. It's not true. The phenomenon of people leaving Ghana is, the embassies.
Kwadwo, do you ever bother to find out?
Let me finish.
Do you ever bother to find out? I'm only interjecting for good reason. Do you ever bother to find out from the people, especially young people, who leave the country? Because in my circle, and I did mention that the 2 people I spoke to were in the space of a week. As for if I'm counting within the last, I can't count. But let's forget US statistics about the number of Ghanaians leaving, which has tripled, by the way. So I don't know which statistics you're referring to, or Canada, what they are saying. But do you ever find out from, especially the young people traveling, do you find out why they are traveling? Do you find out?
Yes. And then, yes, and I'll give you one better. And you find out when they get there, the regrets they have when they get there. Everybody, look, the grass always looks green on the other side. I've been talking to people for years about why they want to travel, right? Look, let's not get into this, Ben. I have been in this. I actually had an office, shared an office with somebody who used to do visas for people to travel. I have been having this conversation with people for years. The next conversation for you is that when they go, call them a year, 2 years after and see the regret of why and they left and they think that it is not as green as they've been told it is. It's not easy anywhere.
Oh,
and it's not
right.
now that it's not
I
easy
am sure.
anywhere.
I am sure.
Let me. You will not let me finish.
But do you want to
let
talk
me
the
get into my
whole
substantive-
time? At least we have
Okay,
limited
so
time.
Let me
Wrap
abandon,
and let's get
let
to
me
the other
abandon
guests
that.
too.
Let me abandon that and go to the merger. I'm very surprised at IES if the report associated to them is true, and I'm very surprised at any of the civil society organizations that says that merger of authorities, merger of regulatory authorities will create increase in prices. I'm really surprised, and I'm going to get to Nana Moisi after this call and find out where they make that conclusion. All the government is doing is basically realigning regulatory entities, PULC and Energy Commission, VRA, Volta River Authority, and Butte Power Authority, NETCO, and ECG. How does that basically create higher prices? When people are talking about we will resist it, when their own manifesto talks about these policies, it's very unfortunate.
All right.
Let me just take 30 seconds to respond to this.
Be very quick. I want us to be done in about 2.5 minutes, so be very quick with your submission.
Kwadwo, I think you are just gaslighting this situation, and you are being disingenuous when it comes to why people are leaving the country today.
Wisdom. I've said that we should avoid certain words to stoke.
I get that part, but I want to make sure that Kwadwo and I were very good friends. I like to consider.
No.
But the truth of the matter is this.
Take the advice being given to you. It will help you.
Okay, I take that back, but I want to help you with this as well. People are leaving the nation today because they cannot find jobs. There are so many people that I know. I go to Walmart, right, and just walk into Ghanaians. And they are here. Some of them don't even have papers. They are coming with visitor visa, and some of them are not going back. All right? They are leaving because they don't have opportunities in Ghana. They don't have jobs. Yes, still we have our government, and some of them are giving our jobs to people that they know versus folks that are actually qualified to do the work. That is the kind of situation that we have back home. So, Ben, this one, 15 seconds. I am part of various Ghana associations over here. And what we are seeing is an influx of Ghanaians coming over, and they are looking for papers. They are looking for help and all of that stuff. So we need to speak truth to power that there is something going on we need to address.
And is that new people, that influx of people to the US looking for papers? Is it new?
I try to avoid interjections from the other side.
But what we are seeing now is something I've lived there for almost.
Please, let's stop this. It's nothing new. Please, let's stop that. Please.
Kwadwo, please. Wisdom.
It's not new. I'm surprised people are making this new. How is that new?
One of the things you even said was that people leave and call them a year later and they regret. That's false.
Yes.
All right? That's false.
Very true.
That's false.
Very, very true.
Look, how about me? I live
here. Well, your opinion, my opinion differs on this. Let's move on.
Gentlemen, let's cap it off there, because I could also say that indeed I know some people who have regretted going because they are building back in Ghana and they were never able to build before. I could say that. But of course, there could be some cases of people also saying that, oh, yeah, I went there and things didn't turn out the way I expected. I know some people who make it there and because their papers are not genuine, they are brought back with nothing because they were brought back. Some of them, they whisk them out and next available plane, and you are coming back. I know of that. I don't know, though, whether I can subscribe to the fact that a lot of them go and regret, because then I would be asking, why are they going and staying? Why are some of them able to repatriate money to their families? Why are some of them, and Kwadwo, sometimes you talk as though maybe you were the only one who had traveled to some of these parts of the world. And that back then, in secondary school, people
Lumba has a song in 86. No, Yayaka went to you. Go and listen to Lumba, 1986, when they all went to Germany. Go and listen to Lumba's song, Yayaka went to you. That will tell you a lot. Lumba has a very good song.
We are ending with the Economy Times in 30 seconds. I'm not taking any reflections from you guys because we've run out of time. But Economy Times, job availability up by 2.4% first half 2024. Job availability in the country for the first half of 2024 has increased slightly by 2.4% according to data from the Bank of Ghana. The number of jobs advertised in selected media, which partially gauges labor demand in the economy, remained largely unchanged in June 2024 relative to what was observed in the corresponding period a year ago. Ghana's reserves now 3.1 months of import cover, and then cocoa farmers expect 45% price increment. That is what they are hoping for. They are looking forward to a quantum leap in farm gate prices of their harvest by almost 45% for the 2024-2025 crop season, sources within government have hinted. I don't know when I say final words because our time is up. I need 10 seconds from you both. Kwadwo, starting with you. If you can just wrap it up. Our time is up.
Go and listen to Lumba's song that says Yeyaka Quentium. Everybody watching us today should go and listen to Yeyaka Quentium by Lumba. That will answer most of the questions everybody has today. Traveling and regretting has never been a new thing and a new phenomenon in Ghana. People have traveled to Germany in the past, traveled to UK in the past. Now it's US and Canada. It's nothing new.
All right, thank you. I do know that song, by the way. Yes, Wisdom, you have the final word.
I think what we should rather do is to pursue policies that will cause our people, help our people to come back home and prevent folks from leaving the country. That will help the nation. And for Ghanaians, especially the youth that have graduated, they can find jobs and they want to leave the country. One thing I can tell them for this election is, all
right. Thank you, gentlemen, for having joined the conversation. Kwadwo Poku is an energy analyst. Wisdom Dogbe is a financial analyst. Both of them joining us, as always, on a Tuesday morning for the AM News Review. Stay with us. We'll be serving you sports up next.